Chinese has always been part of American history since the beginning of the founding of California and our country. But our histories are rarely written in books.
I've just been staring at this photo and this house that we came all the way around the world to see.
I don't know how you would have felt about me being biracial, especially black.
When drinking water, remember the source.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Nathan Fong. I live in San Francisco, California, and I'm a photographer.
Hi, I'm Alana Woods Chan. I'm a student, and I live in Foster City, California.
When people ask me about my ethnic background, I tell them that I'm Chinese American.
Really, the only thing I can say is that I'm Chinese and black.
My parents were born in Texas, and I was also born in Texas, but my grandparents came from China.
Even though I am half Chinese and I live with my Chinese mother and grandma, there hasn't been much discussion about our culture.
I don't know a whole lot about China or the Chinese culture. Al has been an incredible mentor to me. He's helped me to kind of realize that being Chinese American is something I could be proud of.
He really understands how Chinese Americans feel, just sort of the confusion and not really understanding where you fit in and wanting to know more about your heritage and where you come from.
Chinese has always been part of American history since the beginning of the founding of California and our country. But our histories are rarely written in books. The majority of Chinese came during the mid-19th century, right after the discovery of gold in California, where there were many Chinese who came from southern China, where there were great wars and famine in that area of Guangdong province. That's where we're going to be going. I expect Alana and Nathan to research their family history through conversations with their grandparents, their parents, and whoever is still alive. Because genealogy is one thing, but stories are the one that make history. My job is to be able to pinpoint and identify everyone's village. Nathan is very excited about our trip. He's doing a lot of research. We've talked to his relatives in China and also here in San Francisco.
It's very heartwarming to know that Nathan has a desire to go back to the motherland and to see where his roots are, where he comes from. I thoroughly enjoyed the time I had when I went to visit the village of where my parents came from. It really was a life-altering experience.
We're very excited about Nathan's trip to China. I think it's a great opportunity for him to learn about our family history and really go back to the roots now that we're a couple of generations away from China.
Alana also is very excited. She just wants to go. She wants to experience what China is all about.
I think it'll be really wonderful for her to see where her grandmother grew up. I went back to China a few years ago, and she will see what Grandma and Grandpa went through and how actually fortunate she is to have grown up where things are really very easy and provided for.
Today was our first day in Guangzhou, and it's a very huge, beautiful city, much more modern than I expected it to be.
It was an amazing day. We spent the morning at the Guangdong Chinese Overseas Museum.
The museum was built in order to explain the migration of overseas Chinese and to honor the contributions that overseas Chinese made back to their homelands.
It houses over 1,000 cultural relics and artifacts from overseas and took years to put together. It was amazing to get a personal guided tour from the head director, Mr. Wang.
Chinese from Guangdong have migrated to over 160 countries.
Upon entering the museum, we saw this huge mural that explained the different time periods of Chinese overseas. It was amazing to see what they went through and what they put themselves through. Mr. Wang took us to the different floors, and each floor had different exhibition halls. A couple of things that really stuck out to me was a photo of immigrants waiting to be boarded onto the ships to be shipped off abroad. A whole sea of people just waiting in line to get on the boat. Would they all get on the boat?
Yeah, they all go on the boat. A lot of people died, like 20, 30 people, they just dump it in the ocean.
There was also an exhibition of the American Railroad and how the Chinese Americans helped build the railroad from east to west. And to see photos of that and hear stories about how many people died and how many people sacrificed their lives just to build this railroad was really amazing. There was also a part of the exhibit that showed the racism of Chinese abroad. There was one picture that stuck out in particular. It was a cartoon of a Chinese man with 11 arms doing the work of 5 different men.
It was a rat-looking figure. It suggested that the Chinese were willing to do any and everything, like little scavengers, like a rat.
The majority of Americans scapegoated the Chinese as the ones that took away jobs and caused a recession in the economy. So from 1882 on, the United States government enacted a series of exclusion acts that prohibited the entry of Chinese immigrants, particularly the laborers. There were some exemption classes like the businessmen or sons of Chinese citizens and students. The Chinese did not give up, and some of them also used names of other people. So we have also Chinese under what we call paper names,
which were Chinese immigrants who bought names to ensure a spot in the U.S., which my grandpa actually did. He was a paper son.
I was really moved by the part of the exhibition that showed Angel Islands.
Angel Island Immigration Center was formed in the late 19th century to be the entry port for immigrants coming in the West Coast.
Sometimes Chinese had to wait at Angel Island for up to 5 years.
It was basically a prison for many people, and quite a few had committed suicide in the barracks. It was a bitter part of the history, but because of Angel Island, we are also able to recover a lot of the interrogative files, these family files that the official kept.
I went to the National Archives and saw documents from my grandfather coming through Angel Island and saw their interrogation papers and even the map of the village that he drew out. And they interrogated his father and had to make sure the stories matched and everything. Looking at these pictures, it's really amazing to just visualize and see what the living conditions were like. It's emotional for me to realize that my grandfather went through this whole process and what he had to go through for the few months that he was on the island. Today's day 2 in Guangzhou. What another incredible day. We came here to the Chen Clan Academy,
which is a family temple and also considered a scholar's temple.
It was built by 79 different Chen families in 1888 and took 7 years to complete. It's called an academy because the Chen family held education very highly.
Its purpose was to provide a meeting place for people with their surname Chen, but now it is open as a museum for the public to come and view.
The first thing you see is the roof and all the really intricate carvings. We got a personal tour from the director of PR, Nikki, and she took us through and taught us so many different things. We learned that there's 7 different types of mediums of art within the academy.
There are carvings from stone, wood, lime, iron, and brick, and also colored paintings as well as ceramic sculptures.
One really cool thing that I saw was angels right next to a bell. The angels are, of course, from the Bible.
And what it represented was a bridge between Eastern and Western culture.
Nikki also taught us about the Chinese Cultural Revolution, and this place was almost destroyed, almost brought down to nothing. That would have been a huge loss.
Thanks to restoration and few replications, it still remains. Since I am a Chan, it's very probable that my ancestors came here to pay worship and invest into this academy.
It's really cool being here because my grandmother, her maiden name is Chen. I can only imagine my ancestors from who knows when coming here and actually visiting the hall. And it's really neat to think that I'm standing in the same place where they stood.
I'm very pleased that Nathan, Alana, and I are now in Guangzhou. This gives us an opportunity to acquaint ourselves with the city and the culture of southern China. At the same time, I'm really worried about finding Nathan's grandfather's village. All I have is a photograph of his grandfather's ancestral home. It's very important for me to locate this. It means a lot to Nathan. They haven't been back here for 60 years. But I'm also very, very hopeful because the heavens have always been good to people searching for their roots and their homes. I'd like to introduce you to a very, very good friend of mine, Pecky Yang. And she has graciously agreed to help us search for your village. Tell me what you know about the house. What did your grandmother tell you about the house?
My great-grandfather built this house with money he made in the United States. He was a service boy for a family in San Francisco. The house looks really nice. My grandfather was also born there and lived there until he was 14. My grandfather last visited after he was discharged from the Army in 1947.
47.
And there's a story that he went back with $2,000 that his father had given him to go get married in China. He was actually set up with my grandmother. She was 18 at the time, he was 24. I know my grandmother and grandfather lived in that house for about 6 months after they got married.
So they came back in the United States in 1948.
Yeah.
Have they been back? Anybody been back to the village since?
No one from my immediate family that I know of. My grandmother hasn't even been back.
So why do you want to do this? Why do you want to search for your roots?
I don't feel like I knew my grandfather very well, so I want to learn more about who that man was.
How old were you when your grandfather passed?
I was 11 years old.
What do you want to tell your grandfather if you were alive today?
That I'm really happy for the sacrifices he made. That
okay. Okay. Get it out.
That I wish I would have spent more time to get to know him. I feel like it was a missed opportunity to learn about that, and to do it now, it means so much more to me now. So.
The house is still in very good condition, and the villagers, many of them still remember your grandfather. So when I talk about you are coming back, and they feel very excited.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. This road leading up to it's nice.
Yeah. So how are you feeling?
Feeling anxious. I feel like we're almost there, so I just want to see what it looks like and actually walk in it.
There's the name of your village, Xiongtonglei. Okay, all right, let's go. Hi, Pecky. 你好，你好，你好，你好。
Coming here, I had no idea if anybody I was related to even lived here anymore. So being able to meet my grandfather's cousin was kind of a treat. It was an unexpected treat.
She said your grandpa has not come back in a long time, and she said he just passed away. You call him a sok.
Well, we walked up to the back of the house. It just seemed like any other house. It was just a cement block. When I came around to the side to actually see the front of the house, I was kind of in awe. I've just been staring at this photo and this house that we came all the way around the world to see. It was amazing that we were actually here and able to find it. Currently the house is empty, there's nobody living there. It's used for storage and there's a few chickens in a room out there locked up, but no one's living in the house. It's just such a unique experience being here and stepping foot where my grandfather and my grandmother and their relatives had walked. We gave an offering which started out with incense, and we burned it and placed it in various places around the house and also on the altar. I poured wine on the floor and I burned symbolic paper money, which represents wealth to your ancestors in the heavens. And said some words to my grandfather. That was the first time I think that I'd been told to speak directly to my grandfather. Yeah, thank you for having me in your home. This is an incredible experience, and thanks for cleaning up the sky for us to experience this and for me to experience this. And this is an offering for you. I love you. And I'll see you soon. It's such a beautiful day.
Yeah. The sun. It's supposed to rain.
Yeah.
We'll say thank you to your. Yeah.
Thank you for this beautiful day. I knew it would be emotional coming here and that things would be pretty overwhelming, but I didn't expect for myself to feel the way I did.
Proud of you.
Thank you, Al.
Oh, happy that I could take you here. I was happy that I could take you here. Yeah, it's good. It's beautiful.
I know he's here watching over me right now as I'm doing this. And that's pretty powerful because I haven't felt him ever since he passed away. I remember when my dad told me that my grandfather died. I just sat there and I just cried for like a good half an hour. I didn't really get a chance to say goodbye. So I was just thinking about him being here, and this is where he was born. And now I'm here, so I was able to say goodbye.
What did you tell him?
So even though I didn't really know him that well, it means a lot that he was my grandfather and he helped raise the person I am today. In some way or another, he touched me in my life. And I never showed that appreciation to him, so I just told him that I really appreciate it and that I thanked him. And then I said goodbye. I feel a little bit of closure that I didn't expect to feel. Like I'm able to visit him one last time. But this time it has more meaning than just going to the cemetery because I'm actually here.
You did well. You did well. You did well. Okay, let's go.
I'm happy that we have each other to lean on because this is a very intense moment.
Your turn soon.
Nathan, when I first met him, has always been very interested in his family history and wanted to find out more. And there are certain things I didn't know until today. Today's experience made him be able to say goodbye to his grandfather, and that touched me very much. And it brought closure to that chapter of his life.
We walked outside through the rice fields and saw all types of other vegetation that the villagers grow and they eat. We were going to pay respect to my great-grandmother. Actually going to her place marker and giving my offering felt like I was saying hello and paying her respects. Because I was doing that, I felt like she was watching over me and grateful that I did that. So there were a few older women that came and sat with us and talked to us. They were really excited to just see us. We were able to find out that they didn't really know my grandfather or my grandmother, but that they did attend the wedding. They were from villages nearby or from within the village, and they said it was a nice wedding. There was a tent, there was a big banquet. My grandfather's 80-year-old cousin told me that when my grandfather was discharged from the army, he came back here to get married and was very kind to give him 2 ballpoint pens and his boots and an umbrella. And he was still grateful for it to this day. He must have meant a lot to that man, and I can't thank him enough for just sharing that experience with me. Everybody here has been amazing, and I feel so grateful that everyone's so willing to help out my search for my roots. And to share that experience with everyone is really special.
Today was one of the most incredible days I've ever had in my entire life. I want to go back. It was that incredible that I want to go back. So tomorrow I'm going to my grandmother's village. I don't think it'll be quite as emotional. I don't think it'll be quite as heavy since I have a great relationship with my grandmother right now. But I do think it'll give me a new sense of appreciation of her. That's for sure.
Today we came to my grandmother's village and saw where she was born and where she actually lived for 18 years of her life. So coming into the village, first thing I saw was this pond, and I'd seen pictures of the pond before with the village in the background. This all looks very familiar, just like the photos, yeah. And I felt immediate connection to it, that I just knew where I was, and I completely recognized it.
I think we're here, Zhongqin. All right.
I came here with a photo of my grand-uncle, his wife, and their daughter-in-law. And my grandmother told me that she didn't even know if my granduncle was still alive, but he was actually able to understand who I was in relation to my grandmother and accepted us into his home and showed us around.
Go home.
Go home, go home.
And I gave my offering to my grand aunt who passed on. This is so cool. We're in the room where my grandmother was born, and there's all these old pots and jugs. There's an old shipping crate that is labeled San Francisco, and it's a two-room little area made of brick, and the roof has collapsed over time. There's just tons of overgrown vegetation and a lot of spider webs everywhere. It's amazing being in this room. This old floor. So this is an old gate. It's very popular in this area of China. It goes from this side and locks into these holes right here. And the purpose of it is to just allow for an extra layer of protection when the doors are closed and the gate's closed. And also if it's hot, you can close the gate but leave the doors open to allow the draft to come. It's really cool to see this, especially in the house that my grandmother was born in. It was really fun walking around the village. There's chickens everywhere. When I tried to catch one, I didn't do it.
Go catch her chickens.
Being a photographer walking around this village, everything is such a new experience, and it looks so different than anything I've ever seen in the United States. And I hold it very close to me because this is my grandmother's village. So I was snapping away at everything. There's alleyways. Some are 3 feet wide, some are a little bit wider. It makes for some really cool pictures. We went to the village well to gather some of that water to bring back to the States.
So as you can see, it's in this is traditional Chinese well in the southern China. It's square in the outside, it's round inside with bricks lined. And the Chinese character for well, it looks like a tic-tac-toe. So you know what it means, so that's why it's square. Doesn't it feel good?
Oh, that feels amazing.
Yeah, I told you. Put your head down.
Okay.
It's good. Down. It's good. Right, it's good for you. It's good. Feel good? That's the best water, well water. So that's how your grandparents, your grandmother used to bathe in this and wash their clothes. See?
Yeah. Your feet look hot. How about we get yours?
I'm fine.
No. We'll get.
Just dump it. We're gonna get some water for you.
It's not tied. Oh, it is tied. I can actually bring that home and show that to my family and say this is from the village that we're from. And I think my grandmother would really like that, and my parents would be stoked about that. When drinking water, remember the source. We got some well water to bring back to the States from my grandmother's village. That's cool. Coming to this village is completely different than going to my grandfather's village yesterday. It's more of a celebration, like a joyous celebration of meeting new family and meeting people I didn't even know were part of my family. They were just so generous to just open up to me and tell me stories and allow me to see how they lived.
Our visit in Kaiping has been extremely rewarding and so exciting, and today was no different.
We stayed in Kaiping and went to Zilichun,
which is a collection of dialos.
A dialo is a Chinese term to describe a watchtower-like building. At one point, there were actually over 3,400 dialos in the Kaiping area.
The numbers of dialos peaked in the 1920s to 1930s.
They actually served two purposes. One for protection from bandits, and two for a home where people could actually live.
In 2007, the Kaiping villages and dialos were added to the list of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites.
My grandfather's home actually is one of those recognized dialo, which I thought was a cool fact.
We visited one dialo, which was owned by the Fong family.
I think there may be some relation to my family, since I'm a Fong. We had a tour guide named Kate. When you walk in, the first thing you see is Mr. Fong and his three wives. One that he married in China, one which he married in Chicago, and one that he married from Hong Kong.
Back in that time, men would have wives here, and then they would go overseas and they would get married there.
It was very common back in that time, and there were actually rooms for all of his sons and all of his wives if they had chosen to go back there.
When we walked up to the second floor, there was the living room, and there were a couple other rooms. One was for the first son. There were these chairs that me and Nathan sat on, and they seemed very proper. It was exciting to sort of jump back in time and act like Fong did at that time. On the second floor, there are these holes in the ground, and they are known as turrets.
This is called a chenyang in Mandarin, and it's used as a gun hole or a peephole to see who's down below inside the entrance. It's used for protection, and if there's bandits or anything, the owner will just pop a few shots and shoot the bandits. It's very popular in this region of Kaiping, and you'll typically see something like this in all the houses, all the dialo around here. On the second floor, we went to one of the son's bedrooms and saw his bed. It was a beautiful bed.
There was gold designs along the bed frame of cranes and tigers, those creatures very symbolic of good fortune and protection. We made our way to the fifth floor.
We saw the grand altar, which was used to pay respects to your ancestors. It was a beautiful altar. It was very large and unlike anything I'd seen before.
Tomorrow is the day that I'm going to my grandpa's village. I'm definitely excited for tomorrow. But I don't know what it's gonna be like. I really don't.
Tell us again why you want to do this. Why do you want to search for your roots?
Definitely growing up, even though I was raised by my Chinese mom, there was no connection to the Chinese culture.
Were you ever ashamed of being Chinese?
Sometimes. I mean, just because every race is made fun of, you know, everybody has their racial slurs, but I know a lot of times in middle school, they would always be like, oh, the Asian geeks or the Asian smart heads or whatever they would call them. And I mean, I should have been like, I'm Asian, but I'm not a geek or whatever. You shouldn't generalize or categorize. But I don't know. I just the pressure from other people and just how they viewed people. I guess it sort of got to me. So I sort of just like put that in the corner and just sort of continued to identify with my black side, which I'm a little ashamed of, actually.
Your black side?
No, just that I didn't stick up for my Chinese side.
Why would you be ashamed of it?
Because I'm Chinese. And it's different if somebody were to say that to a black side, you know, people get so offended, but the fact that I didn't do that for my Chinese side, like I feel thank you, like I'm dishonoring my family. And you know, especially just seeing what overseas Chinese had to go through to make just a life in America. Like, I think about my grandpa and all the things that he had to do, and my grandma, and it's just like for me to not even say anything. I mean, it's shameful.
Is that society we grow in that sometimes don't recognize that. So, but you're here, you're honoring your grandma and your grandpa.
When I finally get there, maybe it'll put a little closure to just the experiences that I've gone through, you know, so I can finally just be comfortable showing people and just being comfortable in my own skin.
What do you know about your grandfather?
I know that he was born here, and then he worked really hard here until his teenage years, and then he moved to the U.S. with his uncle, and then after he got a little stable there, he came back to China for my grandma. They moved to the Bay Area. He died before I was born. I think he died about 2 years before I was born.
What did your grandmother say about him?
Well, I only know him through stories, but I've heard that he worked really hard. He peeled potatoes in the back of a restaurant, and a lot of people described him as like a frugal spender because he had to save. One thing that I was sort of upset about was that I really wanted to meet my grandpa. I didn't get a chance to because she passed away earlier this year. My grandpa is my grandpa's sister.
You see your village there?
Yeah, I saw the yellow.
And then see that's the sign of your village. That's the village sign there. There it is, there it is. Okay, let's get out, let's go to your village.
When I got to ride on the motorbike in, it was fun.
Canton 你好，你好。呢個就係陳美蘭啦。It's related to your grandfather, and then she is the daughter of 姑婆。
Hi.
嘅姑婆個女。
From the first time that I met my aunt, I just felt so comfortable with her. I could see my grandpa and my aunt. They look exactly alike. I could see grandpa on her face.
認得姑婆睇到姑婆。新啊，整過晒我記得。This is where the ancestral home stood in the early days. So those are the names of your great-grandfather and great-grandfathers are all there. So this is where you pay respects later on. This is where your grandfather was born right here.
Just seeing where my grandpa was born and also where my grandpa was born, it was a weird feeling. It was amazing. When I paid my respects, more and more I started to release these feelings, these emotions, and just become more comfortable with my environment. Hi, Grandpa. I know we never got a chance to meet, and I know that I don't know how you would have felt about me being biracial, especially black, but I heard stories about when you first held Neil and you were so excited, you were so proud, and I really think that you would be proud of me. So I wish I had a chance to meet you, but through the stories told by the family, I feel like you're always around. And at Grandma's house, there's that big picture of you that we always see whenever we walk into the door. So I'm happy to be here. Rest in peace, and I love you. I'll see you soon. I had to bow 3 times, just, showing my respect and my acknowledgement of my ancestors who have passed.
Be careful. Try to use 2 hands and push it in the center. Yeah, that's it. Hold that money.
And then I had to burn symbolic money for my ancestors, so they could spend however they'd like in the skies. I felt like I was involved in the process. I gave my offering of wine and some meats. Then I closed up by doing my bows again. I'm definitely excited. I'm definitely happy that I am Chinese. I'm Chinese! And I don't care, and I love it, and I want to embrace it, and I want to know it, and I just want to hold it. And I'm so happy that I'm here at my grandpa's village, just meeting my relatives. Honestly, I didn't know that I had that bottled up in me. And I'm sorry, Grandpa, for not acknowledging all the sacrifices that you made just to provide for a better life for me and your family. And I don't want to be ashamed anymore. I'm not ashamed anymore. I'm not ashamed to walk down the street with my grandma. It's okay. I felt so much lighter. I felt this heavy pressure off of me. I feel a strong urgency to, when I return back home, just declare this to my family, and, hopefully they'll latch on and, start thinking about whatever demons they have inside and how to release them. Right after I came from the field, my aunt was the first person to console me when I got over here. She was just holding my hand and squeezing it, and I just really appreciated her for that, because she gave me that security, especially being vulnerable out here. I was just really grateful for that. After we came back in, we went into the house. She felt for me, so she looked at my shoe and saw that it was so muddy, and she literally washed the mud off my shoe, off my foot. And the fact that she was sitting there on the floor washing the mud off my shoes and my feet, it was just so touching. It was just so, that again just reinforced my comfort level with her. Then we went to my great-grandpa's grave to pay respects, and honestly, I didn't even know he was buried here. I hadn't even thought that far back. happy that I paid respects to him because I acknowledged him. You know, without my great-grandpa, obviously, my grandpa wouldn't be here, and therefore I wouldn't be here. Overall, today was just a really great day. Spiritually, mentally, everything. I felt it just fell into place. I feel more free, and I feel like I'm getting a fresh start and a new perspective on life.
I just felt so at peace today, just releasing all these feelings of guilt, you know, for not wanting to acknowledge my Chinese side. I take pride in this trip and in this experience. I just feel better, and I'm happy.
So right now I am walking in one of the pathways in my grandmother's village, and firstly, it's such a blessing to be here. Compared to yesterday, this has been more of a relaxing experience. It wasn't so emotionally charged as yesterday, and I felt very calm today. And just the drive here was just beautiful. The sun was shining, and the water was just glistening. We drove past this big pond, and there's so many houses lined up. It turned out that I'm related to about 10 of the people here.
These are all your relatives.
Even though they're not closely or immediately related to me, I still feel that sense of family. And they just had these fat smiles on their faces, and I could tell that, you know, they enjoyed me being here.
He doesn't have an English name, so we have to give him a
Hoi Dan. I walked up, and there was one door.
Both of them are yours. This one next door too.
Both of them? And then some people kept on walking up further and opened another door. They said that that was my grandma's house too. I was surprised. Oh, it smells good in here. And there was this great smell, and they were cooking geese for paying respects for my ancestors today, and we were later going to eat it. It smells good. It smells really good.
So this is like they kept of the older, and so that's the ancestral tablets. Yeah. Good.
Your great-grandfather was here, and your grandmother was born.
When I walked into the second home, they have this great collage of just family pictures. There's me, my sister, and my cousin Ricky. And this is my Uncle Tony's dad, my grand uncle. That's crazy. This is my brother, Neil, and my sister, and me, and my mom. I didn't know what was going to be in the house, but I definitely didn't expect that. I didn't even really know if they knew about us. But, oh wow. I got to show everybody my family, and I just felt so great, you know, just showing off my family and being in my grandma's home. I actually got to check out my genealogy book from the Cheng family. I know it has about 900 years of history. I found out that I am the 28th generation of this village. My grandma's the 26th.
You and I are related because I'm also a Ching.
Me and my mentor, Al, we're related somehow. We came from the same family, the same ancestors, but sometime we branched off and our people went their different ways.
And this is all your Enping relatives.
That's so heavy. I paid my respects to my great-grandfather and others who had passed. At first, I felt a little awkward just because I wasn't exactly sure. You know, every village has their own particular way of executing their rituals. When I was pouring the wine, I had to pour a little bit in each, and then when I got to the fifth one, pour more and then come back down. I felt everybody looking at me, and I think they were very proud and happy that I was home to do this and just to show my interest in this village and my family.
Oh, so this one, yeah, that one. Get a piece of pork right here.
I got into the flow of things and I felt more comfortable. I had to go pay respects in all three houses. So after I paid my respects, we got to eat the geese. It was so good. They cooked it in a special sauce. I don't know what it was. I actually got to call my grandma with some of the relatives. But guess what?
Yeah.
I'm Chinese.
I know that. Okay.
My own issue of not accepting myself as being Chinese wasn't an issue for her. You know, she already knew that I was Chinese, and I feel that when I get back, since this has been such a great experience, a life-altering experience, I feel that I'll be able to talk to her freely and not feel, you know, insecure. I'm sitting here with two of the relatives. I couldn't understand what they were talking about. Obviously, they were speaking in their local dialect. But when she found out who she was talking to, she was like, oh, and you could just hear, you know, she was excited and happy and just really joyful. I feel like these experiences that I've gone through definitely will connect us on deeper levels, you know, and on basic levels. One other ritual that I performed was Hong Sam. I think it translates to walk the mountain. And that's what I did to pay respect to my ancestors. On the mountain lay my granduncle, my great-grandfather, and my great-great-grandfather right next to each other, overlooking a beautiful scene. One thing common in Chinese culture is if you treat your ancestors correctly and right, you know, you will in turn be treated right. I definitely appreciate everything that you've done in your life to make sure that your daughter, my grandma, survived and was able to keep our family going on. And you have led me to be born, and I really appreciate that, and I'm thankful for that, and I'm happy that I'm here. Even though I didn't really even think about you, I didn't even think this far, I'm grateful that you came to this earth, because without you, I wouldn't be here, and neither would my whole family for that fact. So thank you. Summing up this trip, I would describe it as self-empowering, exhausting, and life-altering.
In a few words, I would describe this trip as a blessing, really genuinely enlightening, a little bit gluttonous, very sweaty, but I just feel a lot of love from everybody that I've traveled with and everybody that I've met, especially my family.
Advice that I would offer to anyone who, just has self-identity issues and doesn't fully feel secure within their own skin, you have to go out and explore and discover for yourself. And hopefully with that, you could search within and, find where you came from and find your roots so you could realize your full potential.
Having gone through this journey, if anyone were to ask me for advice or tips, I would tell them 3 simple things. Suspend judgment, keep an open mind, and stay flexible. You never know what you're going to see.
Strong roots build strong character. Strong character create strong communities, and strong communities give us a strong country. And I think that's the basis of world peace, to understand other people, to understand ourselves, and to be totally whole. And both of them are now whole.
This trip I will never forget. I feel like because of this trip, due to everything that I experienced, I am starting fresh, and I've sort of opened a new chapter in my life.
This has been an incredible journey, and I think that going home and being with my family and my friends is a continuation of this journey, and that it's a slow process, but this is just the beginning.